Hey, my name's Christoph, and this is another Yellowstone virtual machine update. This week is pretty big because I implemented local variables, and it was actually a multi week process. And the way I'll prove it to you is through my tests that I wrote. There's a number of tests here that I'm pretty proud of. I think I need a little bit more, but we'll just start reviewing them. The biggest addition was the scope. So, as you can see, I can define a variable in a scope, and then the test will run. And I'll just kind of preview all the tests, and we can run all the tests to verify that it works. This isn't the best test, but I just wanted to define a local variable. Next, I added this assert to the language because I needed a way to verify what the value of the variable was within the scope. And the problem is with local variables, as you know, is it drops when the scope ends. So I shouldn't be able to access that variable outside of the scope. So I need some sort of mechanism to see what it was within the scope, and then later you'll see I needed a mechanism to say, okay, this shouldn't exist. So here, this works as well. If you look at this next test, I wanted to be able to define a global variable, which I did in the previous update, and also a local variable. And I wanted to ensure that I could access each of them. The reason this is tricky is because my virtual machine has essentially a list of constants, and they each need to index to the correct value in order for this to work. Another one here is I wanted to be able to add local variables, basically to global variables, and I wanted to be able to get a new value from that. So here I added yellow to stone, and I get Yellowstone. Another test that I wanted to do with numbers just to make sure it wasn't working only with strings. This one here is I wanted to have multiple blocks. I wanted to augment my global variable multiple blocks to make sure my global variable also wasn't getting dropped if I used it within the scope. Another one I did was just to assure that I could have multiple scopes, and so that wouldn't mess up me accessing my future global variables. Another test I did was this one took me some time actually because I mentioned I needed to know what a variable was, but also in this case, foo should not be accessible in this other scope because it's dropped. So I kind of propagated my errors a little bit better throughout my virtual machine. Still needs some work, but now I can basically expect a certain type of error when I run this code. Same thing here. I wanted to make sure it would work not only within a scope but also outside of the scope. And another feature I decided to implement because I like it in Rust is variable shadowing. So as you can see here, this wouldn't be possible in something like Java, I believe. You're not able to define a variable that's already named, but here I'm able to do that. So instead of being called hello world, this is actually Yellowstone. I also did that here with, I have a global variable called first. I redefine that here. I assert equal, and then to second, which is what I call the local variable. And then I also want to do it for first to see if it works. Just run the code here so I can do cargo tests, do all my tests at once because Rust is awesome. And as you can see, all these tests are passing. So this is the variable, dropping block tests, and etc. Next week, I get to start doing the crunchy statements, so if statements, while statements, else, and this involves kind of being able to jump between my code. I have no notion of that yet. Right now, I just implemented the local variables. From what I can tell, it works. I'm probably missing some edge cases, but I'll fill out the test base as that goes on. So yeah, moving on to the cooler statements, moving forward, and it's starting to look more and more like a programming language. That's my update for the week, and yeah, thank you for listening. Have a great day.